Welcome to Scriptura's layer-by-layer overview of Psalm 36. Rebellion has become like a person, and now rebellion speaks to the wicked deep within his heart. There is no fear of God before his eyes. Lord, your loyalty is in the sky! Psalm 36 changes quickly between describing how the wicked trick and cheat people and describing how much the Lord deserves praise for being loyal to his people. It is different from psalms that contrast wicked people with righteous people. Here, the psalmist compares what the wicked person does, his evil actions, to what the Lord does, his loyal actions. In this psalm, the fighting is not between the wicked and the righteous. The fighting is inside a person's heart, where everyone must decide between wicked and righteous acts. In the end, the Lord's loyalty is more powerful than the wicked. People who choose to depend on the Lord and his loyalty find that he helps them overcome the evil in their own heart, as well as the evil in the world from other people. The phrase we use to remember this psalm, the Lord's unending loyalty, introduces a theme that is common in the book of Psalms, since so many people who complain or ask God for justice begin by reminding God of how loyal he is. The reason for focusing in Psalm 36 on how loyal God is to make evil look ugly. When people compare the ugliness of evil with how much they benefit from the Lord always being loyal to them, they are able to see clearly how much better the Lord's loyalty is, and how much better it is to seek the Lord's loyalty. Any benefit of evil will be temporary at best, but the Lord will never stop being loyal, and so the benefits of his being loyal will also never stop. Psalm 36 has 3 sections. In the first section, which is called Evil Abounds, evil is everywhere, and it directs the thoughts and actions of a human's heart. Then, in the next section, the Lord's loyalty abounds. This directs everything toward the Lord. And finally, the Lord's loyalty overcomes evil. This means that the Lord's loyal actions will destroy evil. The Lord's people, including the psalmist, are hopeful. They trust that he will protect and rescue them. In the first section, which we have summarized as Evil Abounds, rebellious actions and attitudes are personified or described like a person who is competing with the Lord. This rebellion speaks boldly about how people should live. The wicked person listens to rebellion and follows what he says to do. Rebellion flatters and deceives him, causing him to think that no one will find out about his evil actions. The wicked person plans to do evil while he's in his bed at night, and he does evil while he is awake. He does not spend any time thinking about living a good life. He can only think about evil all the time. The transition between the first 2 sections is extremely abrupt. The second section suddenly changes the subject and begins praising the Lord for being loyal. So we have summarized it as loyalty abounds. In the Hebrew Bible, people are loyal when their actions demonstrate that they keep their promises and commitments. In Psalm 36, the idea of the Lord being loyal focuses on the Lord's responsibility to care for those who are in covenant with him, the psalmist, David, and the rest of the Lord's people. In this second section, the greatness of the Lord being loyal is pictured as filling the earth, reaching to the sky, extending up to the clouds. It is also as deep as anyone can imagine, like a great ocean. The extent of God's loyalty is almost beyond what people can imagine. God's loyalty is connected to his power. He has the power to rescue and protect all the living things on earth. When he shows himself as loyal, he uses that power to not only protect them, but to bring them to his own house. There, he takes care of them and gives them everything that brings joy. The psalmist describes this way of providing for them as your delightful stream, the spring of life. The last line in the section is the key to understanding the psalm's main argument. By your light, we see light. The person who is in the Lord's light is the one whom the Lord protects. Such a person sees light, which means he perceives the world accurately because his understanding has not been corrupted. He shares the Lord's perspective, seeing the world the way the Lord sees the world, which implies he is like the Lord in multiple ways. This blessed person, who is safe and protected because the Lord is loyal, contrasts with the kind of person who listens to rebellion. That person only sees and does evil, while the person with whom God is loyal sees and lives in light. The final section in the psalm brings its two main themes together. Humans do evil, and the Lord is loyal. We've therefore summarized it as loyalty overcomes evil, since the Lord being loyal is greater than humans doing evil. Very often, Psalms contrast the wicked and the righteous, but Psalm 36 goes beyond contrasting two groups of people and offers a solution, a way for wicked to stop doing evil. When the people who rebel and do evil experience how loyal God is, this experience can change them. If they reject evil and depend on the Lord to be loyal and protect them, even a person who has allowed evil to win in his heart in the past will see that God being loyal stops evil. That person becomes a person whose heart is upright, righteous. By contrast, the people with evil in their heart who do not change and who do not depend on God being loyal to keep them safe end up far away from God's presence. They are like people whom a strong enemy has defeated by throwing them on the ground so hard they are unable to stand up again. They end up dying. The psalm finishes with this sad and hopeless image as a warning to people about what happens if they do not seek God. Psalm 36 describes an unexpected battle between two possibilities: evil growing in a person's heart and life being protected by the Lord because he is loyal. The person who only thinks about evil all the time stops being able to say no to evil and cannot act wisely. He cannot even understand things clearly, so he rejects everything good. But the Lord is still loyal, and he will keep being loyal to an extent we can't even imagine, no matter what. The Lord will protect everyone who depends on his loyalty. God being loyal gives people so many good things, they cannot even count or name them all. Most important of all, in the psalm, when people experience God being loyal, which means when they have turned from evil and have chosen to depend on God being loyal, they can understand the world more clearly and correctly and see what is true. By the Lord's light, people can see light. In the final section, the Lord's loyalty defeats evil. Evil causes people who choose evil to die. But the Lord's loyalty to the righteous continues. He keeps them safe and secure, not because they are stronger than evil, but because they have come to a safe, strong place, a place where they can depend on the Lord being loyal. And that is a solution to when evil comes. Like with so many psalms, we do not know if a specific event in history inspired Psalm 36. Even so, it is easier to understand the themes David writes about in many psalms, including this one, if we think about what happened to David during his life. Psalm 36 describes the kind of lessons he likely learned when he committed the crimes recorded in 2 Samuel 11 and 12, when he both raped Bathsheba and ordered that her husband be murdered. The rest of 2 Samuel tells about how David had to face the consequences of his crimes. We could understand Psalm 36 to be describing the kind of thoughts David had during that time period. David slowly understood that he did listen to the voice of rebellion to start following evil, instead of staying safe with God, who is loyal. Evil won the battle in his heart, and he became humiliated and ashamed when he saw clearly what he had done. We read in 2 Samuel 11 how his own words became evil as he planned and committed the crime against Bathsheba, and then planned to murder her husband to hide the first crime. Yet he could praise the Lord that the story did not end with David doing evil. Because the Lord is loyal, he showed David his sin by sending a prophet, Nathan. Nathan told David a parable, a story with a lesson, that helped David see how incorrectly he was understanding right and wrong. His perception was distorted. When David admitted that he was guilty and chose to stop following evil and instead depend on the Lord being loyal to forgive him, the Lord gave Nathan a message that showed David a long and difficult path to be put back in a place of honor as God's servant. Although it cost David in many ways, the Lord being loyal allowed David to stay as the Lord's chosen one. The Lord loyally kept his promise that David's descendants would rule Israel. Let's look for a moment at the imagery. One of the prominent features in Psalm 36 is its language of body parts used to illustrate ideas. Throughout the book of Psalms, terms such as heart and eye are used to speak about a person's perception, the ability to see the world clearly and correctly, which is key to the message of Psalm 36. In this psalm, the body part terms and imagery highlight the difference between how people perceive the world after listening to rebellion's influence and how they perceive the world when depending on the Lord's influence on his people. So, with reference to the wicked, their heart, eyes, mouth, feet, and hands are either affected by or become instruments of evil. As a result, rebellion's influence on the wicked leads to their faulty perception. Their heart and eyes, or knowledge and understanding, become completely corrupted, distorted. Under the influence of rebellion, they cannot perceive the fear of God or the truth about their sin. Rebellion's influence is comprehensive, extending from the wicked's mind to their mouth, and finally to their hands and feet. After listening to rebellion, the person is corrupted to his core, and he eventually suffers destruction. At the same time as the wicked are influenced by rebellion, the Lord's people are influenced by him and have clear, proper perception. This is also expressed through the language of body parts. By the Lord's light, his people can see light. Having eyes that see, they also have a mind that knows the Lord personally. And having eyes that see and a mind that knows, they have a heart that is pure and upright. Overall, the body part imagery in Psalm 36 draws attention to what happens when someone rebels, beginning to follow evil, compared to what happens when the Lord influences a person. The real battle takes place in the person's own heart and body. Rebelling keeps a person from understanding right and wrong, which leads to doing evil, which can cause a person to die. When the Lord influences people, they understand what is true, make righteous choices, and live well. Inside people's hearts, there is a battle, desiring to rebel compared with desiring to follow the Lord.
For the director, by the servant of the Lord, by David. Rebellion's declaration speaks to the wicked in the midst of his heart. There is no fear of God before his eyes. For rebellion has flattered him in his eyes, that he has found his iniquity and hated it. The words of his mouth are evil and deceit. He has ceased to act wisely and to do good. He plots evil on his bed. He remains beside every way that is not good. He does not refuse evil.
We'll now explain the psalm section by section. The superscription says that this psalm is for the director. This label may mean that the author wrote the psalm about a specific event, but now it is used over and over again for different events. It may be helpful to understand the history that inspired the psalm, but people can use the psalm in many other situations too. The phrase, "by the servant of the Lord," is not common in superscriptions. We only see it here and in Psalm 18. The term servant generally refers to a man who obeys someone else's commands. A servant could obey because the master owned him or hired him, or because the master was a king or army commander. When the title servant referred to the king of Israel, it emphasized that the king was responsible to save Israel from enemies. Calling David the servant of the Lord in this psalm, as well as in Psalm 18, it reminds us that even kings need the Lord to rescue them sometimes. These poems give an example of what it means to be the Lord's servant. They celebrate times when terrible things almost happened to the Lord's people, but he rescued them before it was too late. Psalm 18 uses military language to describe what terrible thing was going to happen and how the Lord rescued him. And Psalm 36 tells of how a person needed God to rescue him from a very different kind of situation. By David means we should remember God's anointed one wrote this psalm. He was in a covenant relationship with the Lord. That covenant made David responsible to obey the Lord and worship only him. It made the Lord responsible to be loyal to David, to deliver him from his enemies, and to bless him with good things. Would the Lord still be loyal even when David disobeyed? This psalm gives a powerful answer. In the first major section, David describes in great detail how a person becomes wicked. First, he imagines that a person's desire to rebel takes the form of a human prophet, a kind of prophet with supernatural power to deceive the wicked person. This person, whom the psalm calls rebellion, speaks directly to the wicked person's heart and gives him a false message. The person chooses to listen to rebellion's prophecies and no longer obeys or respects God and no longer understands what is right and wrong. Additionally, rebellion flatters the wicked person, telling him that all is well and that even if he sinned, it does not matter because he has already hated or rejected his sin. This means the man no longer sees the truth about his sin. Once the wicked person is confused about right and wrong, he cannot speak or act righteously at all. He stops all wise and good actions. He only says evil, lying words and does evil things. Similarly, in the Bathsheba story, when David decided not to go to war with his army, he had already stopped acting wisely. This made him more ready to act foolishly and in the end, wickedly. David saw how beautiful Bathsheba was and convinced himself that he had the right to take her for himself because he was king. That was foolish. His words and actions were evil when he commanded that she be brought to him. In Psalm 36, the wicked person fully gives in, and rebellion confuses him and turns him evil. In this state, he does all kinds of evil things. When he plots evil and goes every way that is not good, he threatens other people who suffer because of his evil actions. The section ends with a person accepting all that is evil and rejecting all that is good. This is what happens to people when rebellion influences them to be wicked. and they give in to his lies. It is the path David took in 2 Samuel, when he stopped seeing right and wrong clearly and committed crimes against his subjects, Bathsheba and her husband. In Psalm 36, the long list of how people can be evil makes the audience feel hopeless. Evil is everywhere, and good is swallowed up.
Lord, your loyalty is in the sky. Your faithfulness extends up to the clouds. Your justice is like the mighty mountains. Your judgment is like the great ocean. You deliver humans and animals, Lord. How precious is your loyalty, God. Mortals take refuge within the protection of your wings. They drink to the full from the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from your delightful stream, because the spring of life is with you. By your light we can see light.
This psalm completely changes the topic in the next section. The author was describing the plans a wicked person makes in his heart, and then all of a sudden, he starts praising the Lord for being so loyal. The two sections contrast in a way that intends to shock the reader. What is the person who listens to rebellion thinking? What was David thinking when he did those evil things? Changing ideas suddenly like this shows us what it feels like when a person all of a sudden realizes they have let evil win the battle in their heart, and they need to turn away from it. It is as if the person notices for the first time how hard it is to see right and wrong in the darkness of their evil heart. But if they just look up, the Lord is still there, being loyal and shining light on the truth. The section begins with praise for how great and how powerful it is that the Lord is loyal. Being loyal is closely connected to being faithful and being just. The way the Lord is loyal has no limits. It is as high as the sky and clouds. It is as deep as the great ocean. The way he is loyal is powerful and strong, like the highest mountains. We cannot measure how loyal the Lord is, and he will never stop being loyal. The evil people who listen to rebellion cannot do anything that changes how loyal the Lord is. That was the wonderful news for David. His sin did not change how loyal the Lord was to him. Those who know the Lord as loyal worship him for it. The psalm moves to themes about worship and how valuable and beneficial it is that the Lord is so loyal. All people can be safe in the Lord's house, the central place where those who follow him go to worship. He will protect those who come to him under his wings, like a mother hen protects her chicks under her wings. People can feast freely in the Lord's house, with no chance that he will judge or punish them. They can drink from his delightful stream, which is the spring of life. In their world, where they regularly suffered because there was not enough rain, a spring of life promised that they would have what they needed to prosper and enjoy good harvests. The imagery creates a picture like the Garden of Eden. The Hebrew word delightful actually means Eden-like. In the end, people experience something more deep than pleasure when they experience how loyal the Lord is. People experience the Lord's light, which means they get to live in the place where he influences them and approves of them, compared to rebellion influencing them, which led to evil and darkness. The Lord influencing them is living in the light. By his light, his people see light, meaning they're able to judge right and wrong correctly. God rescues them from evil and darkness, and they prosper. The wicked person who listens to rebellion could no longer see, but the one who lives in the light, where the Lord is loyal, can see better than ever before. Being able to see includes the idea of being wise and pure so as to see rightly. The Lord being loyal leads to such blessings and is so powerful that it affects everything. For David, it was precious to live in his light.
Continue your loyalty for those who know you, and continue your righteousness for the upright in heart. Do not let the foot of the arrogant come against me, and do not let the hand of the wicked drive me away. There, evildoers have fallen. They have been thrust down and have not been able to stand up.
The third and final section changes the topic again, though it does not do so as abruptly as before. The section starts with imperatives. These commands are a way of asking God to continue his being loyal and righteous, and blessing those who know him and live righteously. Through these imperatives that make requests, the psalm shifts from speaking about the Lord being loyal to requesting that he act. For the first time, the psalm compares how evil humans are to how loyal God is, allowing these two ideas to interact with each other. This shows that there has been a battle between humans doing evil and God being loyal the entire time. Everything about the wicked person and the way he chooses evil threatens the righteous person. At the same time, even though the psalm shows that evil is everywhere, the Lord is loyal everywhere to an even greater extent. We see the tension. How can these two situations happen at the same time? How can God be loyal while allowing such evil to continue? In verse 11, David asks that the Lord continue to be loyal. So often in the Psalms, he loudly tells about how innocent and righteous he is as the reason God should help him. Instead of doing that here, Psalm 36 has a long description of the wicked. This suggests that David became like the wicked when he listened to rebellion. By the time he writes this psalm, he has turned from that evil path and now is trying to continue on the path where the Lord is loyal. After turning away from his sin, he can claim to know the Lord again, and God makes him righteous in his heart again. He once again is confident to ask the Lord to be faithful to the promises of the covenant. As we often see in Psalms, David pairs asking God to do something with asking God not to do something. Living in the place where the Lord is loyal is living in a safe place where God protects people from the arrogant and the wicked. The wicked are not powerful enough to separate people from the Lord there. If we think of the story of David and Bathsheba as possibly inspiring this psalm, then the hand or power of the wicked in verse 12 might be David reflecting seriously on what he did. Don't let my own wickedness drive me away from you. Protect me from myself. This would set up verse 13, where David reflects even more seriously on the terrible consequence that he came so close to experiencing. At the place where the Lord reveals himself, the people who do evil have already fallen. God has judged them and thrown them down on the ground so they cannot stand up again. David knows that if he had not run to the place where the Lord is loyal, where the Lord would protect him and save him, the Lord would have punished him the same way. We can read this psalm as describing two groups of people. One group is the wicked, listening to rebellion, and the other group is the righteous, enjoying that the Lord is loyal. However, it is more persuasive and perhaps more profitable to understand the psalm as speaking of one person who has experienced both rebellion influencing him and the Lord being loyal and protecting him. He reflects on what he experienced to help others be certain of what is true. Here is what happened to me. I almost lost all the benefits of the Lord being loyal. If other people face a similar battle in their hearts, David reminds them that they will experience pleasure living with the Lord being loyal. This experience is far better than anything they will find doing evil and rebelling. The Lord will continue to be loyal to his people. He shows the sharp difference between how the wicked cannot correctly judge what is good and how those who live in the Lord's house can judge correctly. they see light. When a person listens to rebellion, he cannot see the truth anymore. To see well again, a person must find where the Lord is loyal and spend time in his house. There, in the light of the Lord's house, he becomes able to truly see. This completes our section-by-section walkthrough of Psalm 36. We'll finish now with a reading of the text that brings everything together.
For the director, by the servant of the Lord, by David. Rebellion's declaration speaks to the wicked in the midst of his heart. There is no fear of God before his eyes, for rebellion has flattered him in his eyes, that he has found his iniquity and hated it. The words of his mouth are evil and deceit. He has ceased to act wisely and to do good. He plots evil on his bed. He remains beside every way that is not good. He does not refuse evil. Lord, your loyalty is in the sky. Your faithfulness extends up to the clouds. Your justice is like the mighty mountains. Your judgment is like the great ocean. You deliver humans and animals, Lord. How precious is your loyalty, God. Mortals take refuge within the protection of your wings. They drink to the full from the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from your delightful stream, because the spring of life is with you. By your light we can see light. Continue your loyalty for those who know you, and continue your righteousness for the upright in heart. Do not let the foot of the arrogant come against me, and do not let the hand of the wicked drive me away. There, evildoers have fallen. They have been thrust down and have not been able to stand up.